My name is Bridgette Frazier, and I am a fifth-generation Gullah descendant. Bluffton once had a population of being majority Black and Gullah, concentrated over 95%. We're now down to, like I said, about 7% in terms of the Black population from the latest census, and half of that is probably Gullah. You also see an increase in presence of those coming in from other cultures that may not be aware of Gullah culture and also don't have an understanding or appreciation of that. You have such an influx of people, stories get lost without having an opportunity in a space where you can ensure that that doesn't happen. We now have an opportunity, just in the 2 months we've been open, we are seeing people that travel every weekend from Charlotte, from Atlanta. We're getting day travelers from Charleston just to come to the space because they recognize nothing like this exists.
I'm Devyn Whitmire. People from South Carolina, like myself, are proud of their state and everything it has to offer. But even we don't know every nook and cranny. So we're traveling to the most unique places in the Palmetto State. Some of them even we've never heard of. From Discover South Carolina, it's the Palmetto Porch. We're in Bluffton, exploring the vibrant culture and rich history of the Lowcountry. To start things off, I'm sitting in the Gullah Heritage Center with Bridgette Frazier, who founded the center. I'm ready to delve into her inspiring work around the preservation of Gullah traditions, language, and history. So tell us a little bit about where we are right now.
Right now, we are on the campus of Ma Daisy's Porch, which a lot of people think it's one entity, but it's an entire space. We call it a compound that's dedicated to Gullah culture. So it's about 2 acres. And we're in the building right now on the Bluffton Gullah Cultural Heritage Center. That's on the space. In addition, Ma Daisy's Porch also comprises a restaurant that's dedicated to the celebration of Gullah culture, but with fusions of other cuisine types, bakery, and an open-air market that's also a venue space. But as a market, it provides retail space to craft and artisans from the culture.
That's incredible. So for those who aren't necessarily familiar, tell us about the Gullah Geechee and what makes them unique.
It is a derivative of West African and Central African cultures. I always tell people that our presence and our existence in the space, this country, did not start as slaves. They didn't go to Africa and capture slaves. They went to Africa and they captured, horticulturalists and doctors and, mathematicians, nurses, whatever their field was, and they were brought here and made slaves. So West Africa particularly is where the natives of Bluffton have been able to pinpoint their origins, specifically like Sierra Leone and Liberia is where we've been found to come from. They had to learn how to adapt quickly to their environment in order to survive. And so it was them really forming a new dialect with some of the English that they heard being spoken, but a way to still keep a very unique language that they could communicate among themselves that was still a reminder of home. And so Gullah is a distinct dialect form. It's also cuisine type with crops and with spices and things that were unique to them in Africa. So that rich culture was allowed to be preserved because they were remote. So when you think of Gullah, you think of a distinct language, you think of distinct food cuisines, and you also think of rich traditions in terms of bottle trees. You think of our sweetgrass weaving, you think of ring shouts, our connection to music and rhythm and beats are also things that for us are spiritual, that aren't just like for show, but they take a deeper meaning and a time to be able to reflect, but also to connect with ancestors or just even to connect with one another.
What is the connection specifically, and you hinted on this, between Bluffton and the Gullah culture?
Every inch of property in Bluffton was owned at one point by Gullah natives. So whether it was Calhoun Street down the 1 square mile, it was all Black owned. And not only did they have the land, They operated businesses, and they started schools, and they governed themselves completely. Bluffton Gullah natives went on to do things like being the first to try to integrate USC's law school. We had a nurse who actually petitioned and went all the way up to the president at the time, I believe it was Carter, to shine a light on the lack of care being given to those in the Lowcountry, particularly in Gullah descendants who were being taken over by tapeworm. And her petition actually got the president to fund a vaccine and medicines that were distributed to every one in the Beaufort County area. So our contributions have been great to the area, and this space here is dedicated to reminding folks that we are here.
Wow. So you grew up in Bluffton as well, right? Can you tell us just a little bit about your childhood growing up here and what it was like growing up Gullah?
Even though I'm an 80s baby, I grew up with a very old school grandmother the space is named after Ma Daisy. She was born in the late 20s. And so being raised by her, it was like a crossing over really back into that time period. So we grew up on about 12 acres of land. Any fruit, any vegetable you could think of, we had. So, collards, watermelon, sugar cane, tomatoes, cucumbers, anything we grew ourselves. And so having that experience was beautiful. Then we didn't realize just how rich we were in sense of the environment around us. My grandmother had 11 children, and everyone lived around her. So like you could walk within just a few blocks, and you can hit every aunt, every uncle, or it's a cousin, and like you pick up other cousins on the way. And it's always, an opportunity to play with people or eat at an aunt's house or get a snack from a cousin.
What does your family think of all this?
They are, I would say, definitely enamored. They're in awe when they come here. And it's been a state of euphoria. Like I had uncles who came for the first time and they cried. And these are guys that you never see crying because they don't do that. But to walk in the space, for them, they said it's a reminder really of being around my grandmother, because she created such a welcoming environment for everyone that she encountered, in terms of like she fed anybody who wanted to eat. Like I said, she had 11 kids, so she never learned how to make small pots. So even when everyone was grown and out of the house, she was still cooking for 11. When they come here, it's that same, they get to see different people of all backgrounds interacting, and everyone's just conversing and reflecting on like how beautiful the space is, how beautiful the culture is, but it becomes nostalgic for them too. I think being able to see the legacy continue of something they got to be a part of too, for them is just so rich and beautiful. But a reminder that like we are front and center in an area that many felt it to be invisible at one point, and they know now like there's no way to hide the culture, but also to hide the legacy of Ma Daisy, who really is a representation of any Gullah matriarch, throughout, our community.
What was the impetus behind founding the Gullah Heritage Center, and what gaps did you see that the center would fill?
Really, the impetus for it was seeing how much gentrification had really taken over the area. Those who came into this town just assumed the way that it is how it's always been. A lot of people would make a comment like Bluffton's been a sleepy town. And it's actually an affront to the people who've been here, because it was never asleep. It was always bustling and alive for those who were here and embraced the culture. The need to create the space was to have our stories told. Our stories were not being told. People would come to one of the areas here, and the only thing they would say is that there were slaves here. And, it's such an unfortunate way to recall who we are culturally, because that's just not accurate. And to reduce us down to, something that we had no control over, again, is a missed opportunity to celebrate just how rich our contributions to Bluffton have been. And so it was an opportunity to make sure that history was told in a way that was respectfully reflective of who we are and what our contributions were, but also a way to celebrate those who are still here, that are part of that history, that never got to see their stories told.
Describe for me the initial vision that you had for the center and how it has changed in some ways over time.
I always had the vision, like I wanted a story map that was able to document, our existence from inception down to celebrating some of the spaces that are only known for those who keep those stories orally. Because that's another, rich part of Gullah tradition is much of our stories, our recipes, just traditions, things we do, they're all passed down orally. There is no documentation really of a lot of it. I knew that I wanted to have a space that brought some of that to light because people get to interact with things a little bit better when they're able to visually see it. So like when someone walks into the center, it captivates you automatically because you see those milestones, but you also get to see some of the images connected with it. So you get to see the chronological wall. You get to see the first families, which we're building that out. We spent about 2 to 3 years just gathering the families, giving them an opportunity to get everyone together so we could take like these big family portraits, but just being able to have those little elements, of the culture, again, to continue that conversation and that curiosity was important for this cultural space. It is run and operated by a nonprofit, so it's always a challenge in keeping revenue generated to be able to maintain those operations. And so that's one of the challenges that we're working with now because we want the space to continue to be here to capture and celebrate, the culture in the way that it is. We also offer tours, customized tours to the center. We do drum circles here. They just recently held a sweetgrass weaving workshop that folks are able to sign up for. They do sip and paint class with the local Gullah artists who painted a portrait on the canvas, and then guests who signed up for that class were able to paint it and interact with that artist. And there's several other series that will also be offered as well in terms of like indigo dyeing classes, canning classes, and we do off-site tours as well of some of the Black Business District that existed here, as well as a tour of like the historical Black churches. So it's really, something that someone can plan a weekend around. It could be a day trip.
Are there any particular stories or artifacts within the center that you find particularly impactful or moving?
If you don't mind me turning around, I think it was like 1871. A plantation owner attempted to come back to the area and overtake the plantation. And he wanted to come back, and he even got into an encounter with some of the freedmen who were there. And one of his friends died, and he was injured, but he was jailed. And when he got to the jail, he encountered a Black constable, a Black judge, and he was very upset, used some choice words. And we know this story because he ended up fleeing. He was able to bond out, supposed to come back for court, fled and went to New York and told this story that the whole town was run and operated by Black people. And so for me, that story was so impactful because it's a reminder, and it's also counter to what we've been told, that we kind of, were uncivilized, or we didn't start doing any of this until the Civil Rights Movement. To me, is something to be extremely proud of, but is one of many stories of the resiliency of a culture that has always dared to defy the odds. Even when other people told them they couldn't, they did.
There's a lot of art around the campus. Can you talk about some of these displays, like the mural and the bottle trees?
Art takes center stage here too. Art is abstract, so it's not limited to just a canvas. The piece hanging above us, was a work of art that was designed and put together. You'll walk out of the Heritage Center and you'll see 2 bottle trees that adorn the campus, and they're 15 foot in height. And they're the largest bottle trees known ever to be crafted by a Gullah ironsmith. And each tree has 75 limbs on it, and they're all lit at night. And Julian Williams is the artist that designed this. He and I worked together. He sketched it and welded it at his shop and brought it to life for us. And then the mural was designed by Kanish Harmon. She brought that mural to life in a way that so masterfully captures the essence of my grandmother. You'll also see outside of the mural, there's artwork that hangs in the restaurant that was designed by a local artist as well. That's available for purchase.
You mentioned the restaurant. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. So the restaurant is a 2-story space. that can accommodate indoor and outdoor about 150, 160 guests. And it's also, same thing, a dedication to the culture. So every space on the campus is a celebration of culture. And so from the menu, you'll see dialectal terms. In replace of chicken, you'll see biddy. In replace of creek, you'll see crick. We have a sweet potato and chicken, which would be like a chicken and waffles, but we call ours sweet potato and biddy batter. And so it's like, the sweet potatoes inside of the waffle batter with the chicken on it. So it's an opportunity to where folks come there. It's like that journey of cuisine and culture continues, on the plate, and the conversations that I get to watch people engage in as they're trying to either pronounce something or have it told.
Can you say the name of that sweet potato dish again? I just want to hear you say it.
It's the sweet potato and biddy batter.
Sweet potato and biddy batter. That's incredible. And it sounds delicious.
We also are very fortunate to have a program director that has a passion for kids and has built in some really great programming opportunities where we have kids of all backgrounds coming and learning and connecting about the culture together. So those are opportunities that we love, being able to invite young folks on the grounds into the space of the Heritage Center and continuing that conversation and sparking that curiosity. We allow them to know that, like, hey, the culture is being passed on through you. It's not going to just, die with an elder. It's an opportunity for you to come in and get involved.
What message do you hope visitors take away from their experience here?
Great question. I would say one of the greatest messages, as shared before, is that they understand that Bluffton is not just a pass-through area to get to Hilton Head, but that they come into this space and they can walk away with an appreciation of what Gullah is, that it's not monolithic, it's not limited to any one area, but it's a culture that's really touched every part of the world. We want people to come here and to be able to walk away with the message of just how sheer resiliency, just how the ingenuity of a culture has the power to captivate the imaginations of people everywhere. And the Gullah community has done that all over. And we want to remind them that they also did it here in Bluffton. We don't want anyone to say, I don't see color. We want people to see color and celebrate it, but also understand that it's okay to step outside and celebrate another culture, because that's how we learn. We all may not look alike, but we can all appreciate our stories. We can all appreciate the contribution of others. And it's a beautiful thing to be able to take your platform, whatever it is, and uplift somebody else, especially if they don't have a platform to do it themselves.
The Palmetto Porch is produced by Discover South Carolina in partnership with Pod People. To find out more about this town and all the towns featured on our show, visit scpalmettoporch.com.